Good evening. And tonight we begin with a story that is not just about trade, not just about tariffs, but about a shift that could redefine how the global economy is structured for years to come. And because in the last few days, something significant has happened between the United States and Canada, something that is being described in some circles as a turning point in an economic relationship that has existed for generations. At the center of this moment are two leaders and what has unfolded between them is not a traditional negotiation. It's a standoff, but not the kind we usually see. There were no dramatic press conferences, no last minute summits, no visible back and forth. Instead, what happened was quieter, but far more strategic. It began when the United States signaled the possibility of imposing sweeping tariffs on Canadian goods, potentially affecting everything from energy and raw materials to manufacturing inputs. From Washington's perspective, this was leverage, a pressure point, a move designed to force concessions, because historically, that approach has worked. Economic pressure leads to negotiation. Negotiation leads to compromise. Compromise leads to a deal. That has been the pattern, but this time, the response was different. Canada did not escalate publicly. It did not counter with immediate threats. It did not rush to negotiate. Instead, it moved quietly, deliberately, and most importantly, structurally, in a statement that did not carry dramatic language. The Canadian government announced what it called permanent economic sovereignty measures. That phrase matters because it signals intent beyond the short term. And this is not a temporary adjustment, and it is a long-term shift. And according to emerging details, much of this shift had already been in motion before the current tensions reached the surface. While attention was focused elsewhere, Canadian officials were reportedly working to expand and diversify trade relationships, not as a reaction, but as preparation. Engagements with partners in Europe, Asia, and beyond. Efforts to strengthen supply chains that do not depend solely on the U.S. market, and investments in infrastructure designed to support that independence. One of the most significant elements of this strategy involves critical minerals, resources that are essential to modern technology. These materials are used in everything from electronics to electric vehicles to advanced defense systems, and Canada holds substantial reserves. Now, through expanded cooperation with European partners, Canada is positioning itself as a key supplier in a supply chain that is becoming increasingly strategic at the global level. At the same time, regional logistics are evolving. Canada and Mexico have signaled closer coordination in how goods move across North America, exploring routes and systems that reduce reliance on traditional transit through U.S. infrastructure. This is not just about trade agreements, it's about physical systems, ports, rail, shipping corridors, and those changes take time, which suggests that this is not a sudden reaction and it is part of a broader plan. Beyond that, Canada has also been strengthening ties in the Asia-Pacific region, including agreements involving trade, technology, and energy cooperation. Countries like Japan, India, and Australia are part of that expanding network. And taken together, these developments point toward a larger goal: diversification, reducing dependency on a single economic partner, and building flexibility into the systems. Now, from Canada's perspective, this is about resilience. From Washington's perspective, it raises concerns because the US and Canada have long operated as deeply integrated economies. Supply chains cross the border constantly. Industries rely on components and resources that move back and forth seamlessly. Energy flows, manufacturing inputs, agricultural goods, pharmaceutical materials, all of it interconnected. So when that integration begins to shift, the effects are not isolated, they ripple. In the United States, there are already signs of pressure in certain sectors, and construction costs are sensitive to material supply. Manufacturing depends on cross border components. Energy markets are influenced by regional flows. And when those systems are disrupted, even partially, and adjustments follow, prices change, production timelines shift, markets react. At the same time, Canada is making significant investments in its own infrastructure, and including transportation networks, energy export capacity, and industrial development. Now, these are long-term projects, and they indicate a commitment to sustaining this new direction. Financial markets are also watching closely. Currency movements, while influenced by many factors, can reflect expectations about future economic strength. And recent shifts suggest that investors are reassessing the balance between the two economies. There are also early indications of movement in human capital. Highly skilled professionals, particularly in sectors like technology, research, and engineering, are increasingly mobile. And when economic conditions change, so do their decisions. Where to work, where to invest, where to build. These are long-term trends, but they begin with moments like this. Now, it's important to step back and look at the broader context. This is not simply a dispute between two countries. It is part of a larger global pattern. Countries around the world are rethinking supply chains, reevaluating dependencies, and seeking greater control over critical resources. The pandemic accelerated that process. Geopolitical tensions reinforced it. And now, trade policy is shaping it further. So what we are seeing here is not an isolated shift. It is part of a global realignment. And in that realignment, relationships are changing, not necessarily ending, but evolving, and sometimes quickly, sometimes quietly, but significantly. Back in Washington, the situation presents a complex set of choices: escalate and risk further disruption, de-escalate and adjust to a new balance, or attempt to renegotiate in an environment where the other side has already expanded its options. None of these paths are simple, because once structural changes begin, they are difficult to reverse. Agreements are signed, infrastructure is built, markets adapt, and over time, those changes become the new normal. Tonight, what we are witnessing is not a final outcome. It is a transition, a shift in how two closely connected economies interact with each other and with the rest of the world. And the full impact of that shift will not be measured in days or weeks, but in years, possibly decades. For now, the key takeaway is this: the assumptions that once defined this relationship are being tested, and the results of that test are still unfolding. We will continue to follow every development closely. Good night.